Hey there, YouTube. It's Petey Two Finger, and guess what we got? We got mailbag. What's in the mailbag today for Petey? Once again, I have a package, and I am going to voila! It is the Psychodot's official Ripley's live November 8th, 1996 official bootleg Psychodot's official. And it is a struggle baby joint. You can contact Elaine. And I did. I talked to her before. So the Psychodots, here they are. Rob Sutter's guitar vocals. Bob Neiswanger, bass guitar and vocals, and R.I.P. Chris Arducer. Out of respect for the Arducer family, I'm going to keep my comments. I'll just say that Chris is missed by a lot of people, and while he was here with us, he brought a lot of joy to a lot of people. He was an incredibly talented, multi-talented. He could do it all. Not only was he drumming for the Psychodots, but he fronted the band Grave Blankets, where he was playing guitars and stringed instruments, mandolins. He had a collection of instruments, and he was known as a multi-instrumentalist and a producer. He had a solo career of phenomenal music. So Chris left us way too soon. Ultimately, there will be no more Bears. There will be no more Psychodots, and that's really most unfortunate heartbreaker reality. 2023, September 27th?
Something like that,
yeah. Or may have been the 28th. I know Rob's birthday is right in there. So
it was the 27th.
I discovered, basically, I met my wife and I discovered Adrian Belew all in the same period of time, like in 1988, 89. And I had been listening to Pink Floyd nonstop for 10 years, and then those solo albums of those guys. So I would say there is not a lot of hope found in that music. Like Waters will have a little thing at the end, like, oh, and then there's that moment of clarity and everything's going to be okay. But the rest of the double album is like horrific, depressing, and Pink Floyd is bleak. So I discovered Adrian Belew's music. People kept telling me, oh, you're a Frank Zappa fan? You got to check out this guy, Adrian Belew. And I did, and I just, it didn't click with me the first few times. Eventually, through a set of really bizarre circumstances, I forced myself to listen to this album over and over, because the guy had a broken turntable. It was a linear turntable, and you had to play through the whole record to hear the song. It was a real up-tempo, toe tapper, jazzy number called Twang Bar King, where he aggressively operates the tremolo arm on his Stratocaster with a fuzzed out guitar sound on it. And it's just completely wackadoodle, cartoon Twang Bar King song. And in order to hear that, I would have to go sit through the whole album to get this one real short, fast song. So over and over and over and over. And then on the fourth day, like I remember I went to work and those songs were, the other ones that I didn't like, started playing in my head. And then I came home and I listened to it and I was like, man, this is this is unbelievable. And still to this day, I think that might be my favorite Adrian Belew album. It's Twang Bar King. But that being said, we ended up driving to Williams Bay to hang out with a friend, and then we accidentally went to Adrian Belew's address, and he wasn't home. We found out from a neighbor that he had moved across the lake to Williams Bay. So we went to Williams Bay with the idea that I was going to knock on his door and meet him and tell him that he saved my life. So we went to the bar, and I'm like, yeah, this guy plays a Strat. You know, he's got a ponytail. And they were like, no. So I went out on the street. I'm looking around. There's some kids on skateboards. I'm like, hey, Adrian Belew. And they're like, pfft. So then there was this police officer. He got in a Grand Cherokee, like a big, nice SUV. It's like a rich town. Really nice. It's on Lake Geneva. So it's nice. Williams Bay. So I'm like, yeah, I used to play bass for him and I owe him money. I totally lied. And the cop was like, follow me. So we get in, and he turns his car around and goes to the end of the street we were on. And there it was, this Cadillac with huge fins on it. Like he could have just pointed. And he's pointing at this house. So we pulled in, knocked on the door. Martha answered and let us in. And I took my finger. I remember playing his dobro. I played his Howard, his grand piano. I asked him and he gave me permission. And I asked him if I could lightly, I hit the cymbal and the drum kit. So I played Adrian Belew's drums. I played his dobro and his grand piano. Isn't that correct, Donna?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
see how I am. Anyway, yeah, he was a little like, and I guess the punchline of the story was when we were at the first place, we went around back after we stopped in front, and there was a dumpster, and there was some homework. I was looking in the dumpster to see if I could get like a TV guide with his address that said Belew on it, so we could have proof like we actually went there. Huh?
It was garbage cans.
It was garbage cans, okay. So we looked at his garbage to get an address, and there was a piece of homework from like a kindergarten kid. It was like, it had a picture of a son or something, and it said Iris. So Donna took that, and we were looking at it in the car. There was a neighbor kid, and he told us he lives in Williams Bay now. So we went to Williams Bay, and we met him, and I'm in there, and all of his kids were there. And they were all like, yay, Daddy's fans here, you know, like, this is great. And somehow we were like, that's Audie and that's Steven or whatever, because he had mentioned some of his kids' names. Audie was in a video and on the album, and he had a hit with this song, Oh Daddy. So we like acknowledged them and knew their names. And then the real little girl goes, I bet you don't know who I am. And I go, you are Iris. And it was like, Rit, like stalker alert. Like, it just like sucked the air out of the room. Because he had never mentioned her. And we knew the little baby's name. Poor Adrian. I can't believe he didn't get a weapon or hit the emergency button, call the police. So I asked him, I said, I saw your Mr. Music tour twice. I taped it. I told him I had a tape deck, stereo Iowa cassette deck with backup batteries and a preamp microphone and a fedora where I could poke the mics out of the felt hat. And I said, how do you feel about that? He said, well, as long as if you're not selling it or reproducing it, if it's for your own personal use, I don't care. I'm like, yeah, right on. So then I was like, my wife's never seen you. but she loves your music. So, is there any chance, like, I told him, I said, one day we are going to make music together. I told him that. He was just like looking at me like this. So, and I mean, technically,
you kind of did.
We kind of did. Because I won a contest where I finished his demo recording, and I took third place in that. But that was with my daughter. It was a duo, so it wasn't really me. And there was another thing where I sent him one of my solo discs, and then he answered me back on a King Crimson album called The Construction of Light in a song called Prozac Blues. Anyway, we're friends with Baloo now and Martha. Like, the last time we saw him, what did he say? Leafing down on my two oldest fans.
Yeah,
come in here. Took his phone and gave it to security and said, take a picture of these two for me. And we didn't have wristbands on for the meet and greet. And the owner of the venue was like, who are these two? And Martha said, these two they're just as good as my own children. Is exactly what she said when we forced our way into the meet upper sanctum. They had this upstairs room that was unbelievably beautiful, and we got in there, and I was immediately I started holding court in the line, and everyone's laughing, and I'm telling them stories and stuff that we went in the garbage. So Iris, anyway, Baloo hooked us up with Venetian night, which was Psychodots were coming to Lake Geneva to play this gig, and Baloo was going to get up and do some couple Bears numbers with them. So we showed up early, right when the Dots van pulled in, and they all unloaded, and there was this really tall guy, looked like a rock and roll dude, had real long hair and handlebar mustache. He came up, was real friendly, and he's like, what are you guys here for? And I said, oh, we're here for the band. And he's like, right on, And I said, well, I know the Bears, but I've never seen Psychodots. I'm like, are they good? And he's like, oh, man, you have no idea. So he filmed that performance. And then before the night was over, he's like, give me your address. So he mailed me a copy of that tape. And on the other half of it, he had a public access Cincinnati television show called Rock Around the Block, which was the Raisins. It was this band from 1981, I think it was. They were on TV, and they did an hour and 20-minute, hour and a half set. And all of that set is up on YouTube now. It used to be just an hour. Now I think the whole thing is up, and it's unbelievable. It's a different drummer. It's not Chris, R.I.P. Chris Arducer. But like I said, that was my first Psychodots show, and I remember the second song saying to my wife, I think these guys are good, which was the dumbest thing I've ever said in my life, because this band changed my life. We went on to follow them, and we saw them every chance we could. We driven to Cincinnati and back a bunch of times to see them. We were at the final show, which was the Woodward Theater. There's a DVD of that, and if you watch at the very end when the people leave, there's these girls in the front one of them sitting on the stage, and these girls are talking. That's my wife and my two daughters. So, for some reason, I guess when this came out, they stopped playing together. So I never was at a show where this was available, or I was drinking and I didn't go to the merch table, and I have t-shirts from this band. I have the first 45 they ever recorded signed. I have the vinyl of the Raisins album. I have bootlegs, cassette copies of sessions with Baloo and Psychodots recordings, unreleased Psychodots stuff, all this insider stuff that I got from being friends with that guy who I met that day with the handlebar mustache. He supposedly had a friend who did some house sitting for one of the band members and got into the cassette collection. The guy told him it was fine, go ahead. So he brought over a twin cassette deck and taped all this stuff, which I ended up getting copies of. So I've waited like 30 years to get this in my hands, and I finally got it. And this is like, I can't tell you how big of a deal this is. I'm going to get emotional. Thank you so much, the person who hooked me up with this. It went to a good home. And I promise I won't rip the whole thing and make individual videos and upload all of those to my YouTube channel. It's neat how they put next to the name of the song, there'll be an initial so you know who wrote it, which was something the Psychodots were great for, was their banter. They always had witty onstage banter. Really funny stuff. Because all three of those guys they're brilliant guys. Chris was just like on another level. Chris was such a unique human being. And Rob, like all of these guys are so unbelievably gifted in their own way, and they all have their niche songwriting thing. You know, where Bob could write like these like protest style songs. Chris wrote, they had a nickname for him. He wrote a lot about death. And it's telling that, you know, he is unfortunately no longer with us. It's absolute tragedy. Really, really sad that we lost Chris. Now, Rob, as I maybe hinted at, there's a lot of hope in this music. There's like a Christ-like element. And I don't mean that anything connected with church or any of that bad stuff, kid touching or organized religion or man. I mean Christ as in that idea of something that's close to God, we'll say. So, conflicted spirituality, songs about being a father, songs about growing up, about being accountable. They wrote a lot of stuff about the environment. I don't want to say they wrote a lot of stuff about the environment. That was a theme that was sprinkled in there. And with the Bears. Also, this like animals thing. Like, let's not even ever harm an animal. So that opens the door to my heart right away when someone is operating on that level. Rob was able to plumb an emotional depth that very few artists can dare to go there. I remember an album called Homeless Brother by Don McLean. It's about hobos, man. And Harry Nilsson, the song about the homeless woman, and that voice, like Harry's music, and Rob, he's able to get right in there on that same level. Joy and Madness, Malcolm and Marjorie, these songs, unbelievable melancholy, but also there's this hope, sense of hope, and the idea of becoming an adult. You know, like there's these two paths you can go on, and like, yeah, it's really cool and appealing to be on that dark side path. Fonzie, hey, I'm bad, look at me, I'm cool. But Psychodots were like, there's a smarter, better path to enlightenment. And for Fetters, he found that in meditation. Jogging and meditation as opposed to self-destructive alcohol, substance, And I don't know. Was he a person who abused alcohol or substance? That's none of my business. I just know that was something he dealt with in his music as a theme. And it wasn't like, I struggle so much with my addiction. It was more of a subject that he would come up with these characters in these situations, So it was a creative license thing. But I do know that he does talk about a life change, and when he came to find his path to a healthier lifestyle, which was including this jogging thing that he does, where he's a runner, and he is a fit human being, and also the meditation thing. So I have emailed him. He doesn't usually respond. He has responded to me a handful of times, and they're always phenomenal emails. I've gotten a handwritten thank you letter from him. I did a little bit of work. He paid me generously. Rob, I built him a couple of pedals. So, when I gave up my adventures of alcoholism adventures, when I came to this healthier path that I'm on now, it's coming up on 3 years, and I did mention that to him, and I said, don't think that you had anything to do with this decision. Which, if I'm going to be honest, this stuff was a huge influence on that for me. Huge. So, yes, there were times where Rob Fetters was actually rude to me. Did I deserve it? I was intoxicated. And I can thank him now. There was a time when I was bitter at him for some of the things that he did and said. And again, this is getting really deep and personal, but as somebody who's walking away, even if I start drinking now and drink myself to death in 6 months, I got 3 years of sobriety in my life that I wouldn't have had if it wasn't for this shit right here. So this music has an unbelievably special place in my life. It was the soundtrack to our life. We grew up listening to this stuff. We raised our family listening to this stuff. We had the pleasure of taking our kids to the last show. They sat at the Woodward Theater, and their mouths were, they were shaking their head in disbelief at all three of them. My daughter said, I won't have to worry about never seeing Geezer Butler. And who else did she say? She dropped two foundational bass player names to Nice Wonger and she said, I wanted to worry about never seeing those guys because I got to see you. Is what she said. And I was like, that's my daughter. So, my love for all three of these guys, and they're all so, completely different people. They could not be more different. And that was one of their strengths, was, they say, these three things together, they make something greater. So, I could go on talking about Psycho Dots till the cows come home. I'll let you guys go. I can't believe I got the official bootleg. Thank you to the person who made this a reality for me. And I've got some stuff here. These are all like components and some wire and then a chassis and some stuff in here. So I'm going to be building a treble booster that's a Brian May, a 1983 TB. I think it's a Greg Fryer. It's not a Covington fireplace or a, what's his name? The guy who built for Gilmore. The British pedal builder. Pete Cornish. It's not a Pete Cornish treble booster. It's a MOSFET based. And it can be biased into a full range boost, so you could turn a knob and it gets more bass in with the boost. So it doesn't completely kill all, like, it does that treble boost thing, and it does give you a little bit of grit because it's a MOSFET. It's not like the silicon treble boosters are like, nice try, guys. If you're getting all of your breakup from your amp, you can do that. But if you're looking to get breakup from the pedal, you really need the germanium treble booster, the range master. It'll hiss a little bit when you're tuning, and you just have to deal with that. But if you want to start compromising, the Runoff Groove Omega is the one. It's a JFET and a MOSFET, and I think that's the one, as opposed to like the Naga Viper or any of the other, like, or just building a silicon range master. I mean, you can try it, but going down this road is a long, hard road. And what I came to find was just that. And I'm going to be trying this 83 treble booster in conjunction with a full tone, full drive, which is another MOSFET pedal, and using these in the effects loop of an amp modeler. More like a clean boost idea. And I really like that, what the treble booster does. So I am going to be listening to this. I have to rip it, and I'm going to be doing some measuring and poking and prodding. And eventually this is going to turn into a pedal that will have an internal power pack that'll power the full drive that sits next to it, because it'll have a big old lithium ion. That's why the box is so big for a little treble booster. The rest of the insides is going to be additional lithium ion batteries that'll power the pedal that sits next to it. So that's what I'm going to be doing on the first time I listen to Psychodots Ripley's live official bootleg. Aren't you jealous? Lifestyles of the rich and shameless. Petey snuggles in his palatial estate, poking and prodding at the lithium ions, the soothing sounds of the Psychodots Ripley's live. I can't wait to hear Old Fashioned Girl. And You're Gonna Wish is the other one. There's 4 acoustic numbers. They used to do this. Chris, our producer, would play a mandolin, and Bob would sometimes have like a stand-up or some kind of, I don't know, Zeta bass or something. And Fetters would get on an acoustic guitar, and they would do these acoustic sets. And typically, whenever people would do acoustic, it would be like everyone just starts talking in the room, except for when the Psychodots did it. Their acoustic sets were phenomenal. So if you're not a fan of Rob Fetters, Bob Nicewater, Chris Ardusher, the Psychodots, the Raisins, and you're still watching this, you know what to do. Guys, thank you for joining me on this mailbag, what's in the mailbag today for Petey video. As I like to say, hug your pets, please, and peace.